Hello, this is wmpyr. This is part 2 to why Wing Chun doesn't work. So in the first part, I hope you got the idea that I'm not saying that Wing Chun doesn't work. I don't believe that. I feel like any martial art style has the ability to work. It also has the ability to fail and everything in between, where it kind of sort of work, kind of sort of doesn't, you know what I mean? So I don't agree with the statement that Wing Chun doesn't work. However, I hope that I clarified in the last video that, you know, the intention of what a traditional martial art is, like Wing Chun, is what they're doing is knowledge-based. And that is very, very different from applied knowledge. So the application of knowledge is completely separate. So if you are training in something like Wing Chun and you want to actually use it for real self-defense, you want to be able to pull it off in a combat situation, then the way it's normally taught, I believe, that was never the intention. Like I said, they're trying to pass down and create this lineage, so you have to train differently. Now you got to go from knowledge to applied knowledge, and that's what this video is going to be about. How do you do that? Okay, so how do you go from, you know, traditional martial arts type training, which is, that's what I do. It's a great knowledge base. You are passing knowledge from one person to the next. And you know, on my YouTube channel, you know, what I do, this is my own interpretation of the Filipino martial arts and other martial arts. And, you know, I put in the time. I cannot prove to you that I've proven myself or whatever. And the venue that I've proven myself is a lot smaller. It's not like I entered the UFC or something like that, you know. I'm talking about, like, I lived in a bad neighborhood and I had to use it in those kinds of situations, and it worked out for me. I worked in a very, very rough and tough security job, and in that circumstance, it worked out for me. I had some challenge matches, and you know, nothing like the UFC level or anything, not even like the early UFCs or Vale Tudo, but I had challenge matches. It worked out for me, you know. So those are my small proving testing grounds. Those are the experiences that I had to make the styles that I learned from knowledge into the application of knowledge. So, and then when I teach it to you, I cannot pass that on to you. I hope I made that clear in the last video. You could learn from the best fighter on the planet, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to fight like them. You can learn from Mayweather. You can learn from who's a UFC guy right now, Conor McGregor. You know, you could learn from any of those people. It doesn't mean that you're going to fight like them. What they're going to pass on to you is knowledge. So that's the same as the traditional martial arts. They're just passing knowledge to you. So once again, in this video, how can we go from knowledge to applied knowledge? Now, on YouTube, there's two guys. Their YouTube channel, I believe, is called Kempo Kinetica. And these two guys they're a character. They're hilarious. They're like, Kempo Kinetica for your life. You know, they just have really amped up personalities and stuff, and I dig it. I really enjoy their channel. In one of their videos, they said something that is really, really great, and I completely 100% agree with, and that is one of the keys here. To go from knowledge to applied knowledge. I mean, you look at Kempo Karate, American Kempo Karate, made by Ed Parker. Ed Parker was one of those guys that the guy was like a freaking genius, and he was meticulous about taking notes and just, you know, naming everything, break down everything, and you know, do that kind of thing. So if you look at the art of Kempo, American Kempo Karate, there's a million concepts, a million principles, a million techniques there, okay? That's great for the education, just the learning aspect. The knowledge base is huge, just like a lot of traditional martial arts are that way. Wing Chun has, if you think it's just about center line, no, they got way more than stuff. They have like springing motion, you know, they have just, you know, I can't even go off the top of my head, but they have like a triangle base theory. They go on and on, the 4 quadrants, you know, there's tons of stuff there, okay? But when you go to the application of knowledge, you have to narrow it down. So you have to pick like only one or two concepts, one or two techniques, okay? So I'm not saying you don't train in that other stuff. Go ahead, you train and you learn that other stuff. But when you are now going to apply it, you have to focus on just a few. Just look at, for example, judo, okay? The judo athletes, the Olympians, I mean, they're known for one or two throws. It's not like they have a million techniques. And a really famous martial artist that we all love, Mr. Bruce Lee, had made the comment of saying something like, you know, I don't fear the person who has 10,000 techniques. I fear the person who has trained in one technique 10,000 times. He said something like that, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about here. So that's what you need to do. And the Kempo guys, they said that. I mean, just especially something like American Kempo Karate, where they have so many principles, so many concepts. They said, no, in a real life situation, forget it. You're not going to be able to do it. So just one or two things and focus on it and use that and make that your specialty. And I agree 100%. Okay. So that's one of the huge things, is when you go from just pure knowledge to applied knowledge, you're going to narrow it down. Techniques and also principles. Okay. Those are going to, principles, concepts, and those are going to come way, 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 way down, and you're going to focus down in number. All right. And that's the way it's going to go. And when you are doing that, and let's say you have a YouTube channel and you start presenting it, okay, the traditional martial arts people are going to look at you and say what you're doing is wrong. And from their point of view, they're absolutely right. From a knowledge base, they're going to be like, oh, look, you know, you're not centered. Oh, look, you're using your shoulder. That's not correct. You know, your stance is wrong. They're going to be saying all this kind of stuff. And like I said, from a purely knowledge base, they're right, okay? But from an application of knowledge base, they're wrong, okay? I go with the Miyamoto Musashi way of thinking, where he said, you know, these guys from these sword schools are arguing about where do you place your hand on the sword, how do you hold it, do you hold it up high, here, you know? And he said, none of that freaking matters in the grand scheme of combat. In combat, more important is stuff like, can you run with a sword in a field? You know, in uneven terrain where a dude is on horseback with a spear coming after you, can you run through the bamboo forest with a sword full speed? He says that's way, way more important, you know. And if you're thinking about that, yeah, you're going to be breaking. Who cares how you hold it, you know? So I agree with that 100%. So that's kind of the idea here. So don't worry, you are going to break, you know, things. You are going to break principles. The technique's not going to be 100%, but we're talking about application. Application is you apply it. We just want to be able to do it. And if we can pull it off, it doesn't matter if it looked bad. It doesn't matter if it wasn't pure Wing Chun. None of that matters, you know. So that's what's also impressive about Bruce Lee. If you think about it, he got Wing Chun, and then like if you see the straight blast, it's like, you know, the Wing Chun stance, the Wing Chun footwork, you know, all that's probably violated, but it doesn't matter. He's running, you know, he's using his athleticism, you know, there you go. That's real life for you. So I hope that makes sense. And one last thing that I have to say is, if you go from an MMA perspective or combat sports perspective, they're going to say to the traditional martial arts, they're going to say, if a traditional martial arts person is humble enough to look at their stuff and they go, okay, I want to be able to use it in real life. What's missing? And you talk to an MMA person, they're going to say, well, you guys don't spar. You know, you guys don't have the full contact sparring. So that's the answer. That's what they're going to say. I disagree with that. I do believe that full contact sparring and the sparring experience is 100% necessary. 100%. You need to know what that feels like, to operate under pressure, to know when someone's fully not just fully resisting your techniques, but they're trying to do stuff to you too. They're attacking you. So to be able to deal with all of that, you need to experience it. You know, you can't just technically think about how to swim and never jump in the water, right? So I do feel it's necessary. But once you experience it, because it's so dangerous, full contact sparring is dangerous, and plus you can't do it your whole life. You know, you're going to get hurt and stuff. And I think some MMA people are struggling with that. You know, they're trying to figure out how can we train smarter and better. So that just depends. But Anyway, I don't believe that full contact sparring is the answer. I believe there's other ways to do it. So I just want to leave that there. Okay, I'm not going to get into that because that'll be a whole nother video, but I do believe that the answer isn't just full contact sparring. Okay, that there's definitely other things that you can do. And yeah, so that's it for now. Thank you for watching and take care, folks.